Hi there. Yesterday we had, as promised, the accounting webinar, that is ERPNext Accounting. And the bad news is that we forgot to record that webinar. And that is why I'm here again, just because I want us to have a place where people can refer and see what we went through. And maybe some other people also who missed have also an opportunity to have a look at it. I had to redo the whole thing. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are. We want to go through the accounting module of ERPNext, and through this webinar we are going to be making sure that people master the ERPNext accounting as a financial management tool to streamline your financial operations. Inside the webinar we had Karani Geoffrey, that is I, we had Jacqueline Karani, we had Kevin Courier, and we had James Remeri. And these are people that are accountants, or rather they are specialists in the accounting modules, at least the accounting module within Upeosoft Limited. And the two companies here that are represented are Upeosoft, that's upeosoft.com, that's the company that we work for. And then here we have ERPNext, which is ideally the company that has built, or rather the software that we are using, we are looking at here. The ERPNext and Frappe are the guys behind the great ERP called ERPNext. In the third slide, we had an overview, or we have an overview where we look at ERPNext as an open source system that is designed ideally to fit any kind of business. So whether you are doing manufacturing, you are doing retail, you are doing even very specific domains like healthcare, like NGOs and such, you can manage that in ERPNext. So it is a very comprehensive tool that spans almost all the, including education, all the lines of business that you could be in. And then the accounting module here is a very powerful tool to organize your financial activities, and that is what we are going to look at today, or that is what the 1 hour that we have is going to allow us to cover. The fourth slide has the chart of accounts. So here is where we are going to be starting our demo. And ideally, you know, the chart of accounts in any accounting software is like the backbone. So that is where everything starts. The chart of accounts allows you to see your assets, to see your liabilities, income and expenses, or rather it should allow you to do that. And ERPNext is not an exception. It allows you to have an eagle's view of how your assets are, how your liabilities look like, how your incomes are, and also your expenses, to make sure that you keep everything in check. So it allows us to have a very flexible structure, that is in this case ERPNext, such that you can group your accounts into many groups and many subgroups, and we are going to see that, where you have accounts that are children of others, and that allows you to have what we call in ERPNext a tree view. So let me jump here quickly, and this is the app that we're going to be using today for the demo. And this is it's on demo.upeosoft.com. Of course, you are not going to be able to log in there. This is the one that we use for our internal demos. So if you go to the accounting module here, you will find that there is, on the shortcuts here, most likely there is going to be chart of accounts. So if you don't have that chart of accounts there, don't worry. I can also teach you today how to navigate using this awesome search. This awesome search, ERPNext called it that for a good reason. It is actually awesome. I cannot say anything beyond that. You can ideally search anything here, whether you want to search documents, you want to search records. It allows you to search anything within the ERP and Frappe. So if, for example, I start typing chart of accounts, you can see there is a suggestion. I click on it and it takes me to what looks like a chart of accounts, or like a list of accounts. Now these are just 5, but for those of you who are accountants already know that these are the 5 entries into an accounting system. We have application of funds, we have source of funds, we have equity, income and expenses. Now within ERPNext, anytime you see this folder, when you're looking at a tree view, for example the chart of accounts, what this means is that this is a parent account that has other accounts inside. So if you click on this, it's going to open, and then you see there are also folders there, meaning there is the other accounts. Those are also folders. Let's click on this one, and now here we can see we have two of them that are not folders and one that is a folder. Now we created some of this during our webinar, for example this one, so we can go ahead and delete it and then we can recreate it. It's saying that it's not going to be deleted because it has a child, so we are going to just go away and go ahead and do away with the child first, and it looks like it has some transaction. So why just let's just leave it alone. Of course you can see there's a transaction here of 100 debit, so we can just leave it there. So this is how our chart of accounts look like. If you click on this expand all button, the system is going to expand all the accounts that you have here, and most of these are what come by default with ERPNext. Now you can decide to delete some of them if you don't need them, and you can also decide to create yours. Let's go say for example we want to add one more account here. What we are going to do is, or actually let's add here. So let's add here. So in here we can, anytime you click on what is a parent account, remember I told you that what is a parent is what looks like a folder. When you have that and you click on it, you're going to see 4 buttons: edit, delete, add child, and a view ledger. When you click up an account that is not a parent, you see 3 buttons: edit, delete, and view ledger. That means here we are missing one button, which is add child, ideally because you cannot add child in an account that is not a parent. All right, so if you go here, for example, we can just click on add a parent and then say this is our other account, and then you can give it an account number, you can give it an account type, which is quite comprehensive here. You can give any account types, and then you can do currency if you want it to be of different currency, and then you can go ahead and click on create. You can see our account has just been created here. This is our other account. This is the one that we created. So that's how easy it is to create accounts within ERPNext. And if you want to delete it, it's basically highlighting it and then deleting. But remember, it must not have transaction, and that makes sense. Of course, you can imagine if you delete an account like this one, which has money, and then when it is deleted, you don't know whose money that belongs to, or you cannot trace that money again. So the ERP does not allow you to delete accounts that have transactions in them. That's the chart of accounts. The other thing is journals. Now, journals are ideally those records that you use to either do corrections. You can also do them to make financial transactions like payments. You can do them to make transfers, like when you want to move money from one account to the other. A good example would be when you are topping up your petty cash, and therefore you need to move money, for example, from the bank account to maybe your petty cash account. You can use a journal entry to do that transfer, or you can use it to do adjustments. So that is when probably there is an error, or whatever reason you are doing an adjustment, you can easily do that adjustment using journal entries. Now that is not only in ERPNext, that is in accounting generally, and ERPNext is built to accommodate that accounting feature. So it's not an exception. Let's go ahead and see an example of how we can do a journal in ERPNext. So again, remember the awesome search, our awesome search. And here I can just do journal entry. You can see there is a suggestion. Click on it. And then when we are inside here, we have a number of them, and we can go ahead and click on this add journal entry button to add our own journal. Now, for some reason, if you cannot see this add journal entry, it will be most likely because you do not have permissions to do journal entries. So maybe you can talk with your administrator, and then they are going to allow you to create journals. So let me click on this one because I am a super admin here. And then here we want to move money. Let's see how our chart of accounts look currently. So let's allow me to go back to chart of accounts, and then I expand. I want to move money to this chart, which has 1000 debit, and I want to move it from, now here we have a credit balance of, and actually I forgot to highlight this one. You see, these are asset accounts. You see, these are asset accounts. So in asset accounts, when you have a credit balance, that means that is a negative balance. When we have a debit balance, for example, in this chart, this debit of 1000, it means that this is a positive balance. So let us go ahead and move 1000 from this is a child account to cash account. So just so that I can show you how we can move money using journal entries. And what we are going to expect is that the child is going to go back to 0, and then cash account is going to go back to 147,500, because remember this is a negative balance, so when we add money it's going to reduce this amount, right? So let me not close that one, let me just open a new tab here, and then in the new tab I'm going to search on the awesome search chart, not chart of accounts rather, but journal entry. And then in the journal, what we are going to do is click on this one and then say here I want to do, I think this is a child, and this is a child I want to credit 1,000, and then cash account I want to move the same 1,000 to the cash account. And here you have references, if you have reference remarks, and I can say, for example, let me just do, we don't have to, this is an example remark. So you can also do that so that people know exactly why you moved that money to that account. So I'm going to go ahead and save it and then submit it, and that's all we need to do. If we come back here, remember our cash our cash needs to go back to 147,500, and our this chart needs to go back to 0. So let's go to these 3 buttons and then click on refresh. We open it, and you can see our chart is now at 0, and our cash account is at 147,500. So that's how easy it is to move, or rather to do journal entries in the ERP. If you want to reverse this journal entry, you just open it and then you cancel it, and when we do that canceling, this money goes back to its respective accounts. Let's just confirm that one. So if you go back to this account, the 1,000 is back. If you go here, the money goes back where it was. So that's how easy it is to create journals, and if for example you have errors in those journals, you can cancel them and everything is reversed. Surrender number 6, we have accounts receivables and payables. So in this one, we are going to be looking at how we can do supplier invoices, customer invoices, and that is just one thing. I mean, if we know how to do supplier invoices, we can also know how to do customer invoices. So I'm going to show you how to do customer invoice, which we call sales invoice, and then you can figure out how to do supplier invoice or supplier bills, which are in the ERPNext called purchase invoices, right? So in the demo we are going to be looking at those ones. Then we can also see things like how to set credit limits for customers. We can see how where we can get our aging reports. Of course, after we have invoice, we want to do that, and also we can see how we can handle maybe overdue payments. We may not be able to do that today, but it's pretty straightforward. The ERP is going to track for you overdue payments. So let's jump into our system here. And in the accounting module, or in the awesome search, you can do sales invoice. Okay, sales invoice like that. And then here we have 3 invoices already, and you can see, just like I told you, there's one invoice that is overdue, one of them is paid, and there's another one that is partly paid, but we want to create our own, right? So let me go here and click on create, and we want to create it against a customer. So I'm going to come here and say I want test customer 1, and then the due date is going to be, let's say, 1 week from today. And then down here we are going to add our items. So let me just pick this one item and allow me to make one change. Let me just remove this one for now, and then I go ahead and save it. So when I save, the value has been picked here, remember, and when this document is in draft stage or draft state or status, depending on how you want to call it, you can change these things. For example, I can say I'm buying 4, and the total there automatically calculates, and I can also change the amount from 2,000 to maybe 1,900. It's up to you. It's up to you. And then I can go ahead and save this one and submit it. That is how simple it is to create an invoice within ERPNext. Now, if you wanted to add more items here, of course you can add them. Let me show you. If you click on create again, here you don't have the limit as to how many items you can add. You can add as many items as you wish in your sales invoice. Now, purchase invoice is ideally the same purchase invoice. So when you come to purchase invoice, the interface is the same. Just click on create, select the supplier here, maybe supplier 1, and then you add the items that you are purchasing. That's how easy it is to do purchase and sales invoices within ERPNext. Now, How about tracking our balances? Now let's go to customer here. Remember, we have two customers here, and this is the customer we just invoiced. So if we open it, on the dashboard tab here, you're going to see the balance of this customer. So you can see here that the total unpaid is 7,740. All right. So there is another report that can help you see this, and you can do that by going to this view button. You see how easy ERPNext has made it. Then accounts receivable. So if I click on that one, it is going to open an accounts receivable for specifically for that customer. All right. And this account receivable report is what also doubles as the aging report. So here you can see you have our aging days here. This is 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and 120 days. All right. So this is also used as an aging report, and you can see them there. Now, if you want to see for all customers, of course, you just need to remove this one so that you don't have a customer there, and this is going to give you aging for all the customers you have within the system. Now, you don't have to go to a customer and then there. You can just go to accounts receivables. So you can see this one, report accounts receivable, and that report is going to bring you on the same page. Let me just go back home and come back so that you see that. So accounts receivable, there you go, it's going to bring you here. If I do accounts payable, it's going to give you the aging report for the suppliers. So this is what this is where we can get that. And if you want to narrow down to one supplier, you can do that by just entering the supplier name in this report, and there you are done. Let's see, the next thing that we needed to cover here is how to generate aging reports. We just did that. Now, setting credit limits is important, so let me show you. For example, if I go to a customer here, let's say this one, and I come to accounting, I believe, yeah, here, credit limit. So it's in the customer and then accounting, credit limit. We can set the credit limit for this customer. So for example, we can see it's 20,000, and that is what is going to be treated as the credit limit for this customer. So that is how amazing and easy it is to do that. We go to slide number 7, and slide number 7 has multi-currency. So ERPNext again allows you to do multi-currency accounting. So you could be importing some things. You could be probably buying things in one currency and selling in another currency, and you want to manage those currencies within the ERP. ERPNext allows you to do exactly that and even more. So let me show you an example. If we come back to the system here, you need to first of all make sure you have an account in the chart of accounts that is going to be a USD account, and here I have one that is debtors USD. This is where money is going to be received, or this is where the data account for the USD customers. And currently we have 17.84 US here, which you can see it's also converted into 2,319.2, which is a debit balance. Yeah. So ERPNext has been built to also do that conversion for you, because even if you are, invoicing in dollars, you need to do your reporting in your local currency, which in our case is Kenyan shillings. So you don't do your reports in dollars for some accounts and others in Kenyan shillings. That will be a lot of confusion. You are doing your reporting in Kenyan shillings. For our case here, you're going to do it in your local currency, but then you can receive the money in any currency. All right. So when we are creating this account, let me just edit it and show you. We need to make sure that the currency here is the currency that you want. So this one has a number of them. You can just delete that so that I can show you. You have a number of currencies here. You can basically search any currency that you have enabled within the system. And then the other thing is that if it's a data account, you need to make sure that you have selected the account type here as a receivable account. I showed you these types earlier. So just make sure, that this is a receivable account, and also make sure that it is not frozen. And here, if you want to specify that the balance must be either debit or credit, you can do that. In my case, I don't have to do that. So the first thing is to make sure that you have an account in the chart of accounts for the debtors. That is in case of you are invoicing in a different currency. Let me refresh so that I don't save anything. So now I want to invoice somebody in US. Okay, so if I go back to customers, I'll show you here that I have one customer that I'm actually calling USD customer, but there is nothing special here. It's just a name that is there. There is something else I would like to show you, but I will show you that when we have one fail. So I want to introduce a fail so that I show you how we can handle that fail. So let's go ahead and invoice this customer some amount. That is USD customer. So I'm going to do sales invoice, and then I'm going to create a new sales invoice. And in this sales invoice, I'll select the customer that I want to invoice is my USD customer. Excuse me, please. And then I'm going to select an item here as this one. Now, if you go to currency and price list, you notice that this is still saying Kenya shillings. Remember, we don't want to invoice in Kenya shillings. We want to invoice this customer in USD. So I can just come here and manually change. Now, that is not appropriate. You do not want to keep doing that. So I'm going to show you how to sort that out. You also notice that this one has fetched 128 shillings from somewhere. Now, that one has fetched from currency exchange list. So you can do your currency exchange lists here. I want to delete this one for now so that we see what happens when we do that. Let me go back and refresh this invoice. And then I select the same customer, which is our USD customer. And after selecting the USD customer, I want to change this again to USD, right? And now you notice that the ERP will complain that it is unable to find exchange rates for from USD to Kenya shillings for this date. This is 6th of September, which is today. So it cannot find it. Now, ERPNext has this currency exchange document. You just saw me delete one of them here now. So you need to be putting here manually. So when you wake up in the morning, come here and create the exchange rate for that day. So you select the day, which is today, and then you want to move from Kenya shillings to USD, right? To USD. And then you can put the exchange rate here as 129. Let me do 129 today. And then I save it. So when I do that, did I save it? Yeah, I did. When I do that now and I come back to my invoice, it is going to fetch that. Let's see. So if I come back here and then I select my USD customer and then I come back here and change this to USD, it is supposed to fetch the amount that we put there. So let's go ahead and see. Didn't fetch. Let's just make sure. I need to close this one so that doesn't keep popping. So if I select this customer here and then I do US, let's see what happens. I think I put this thing in the other way, so I think it needs to be USD to Kenya shillings. Pardon me for that. To Kenya shillings, and we can leave it as 129. Save it, and then we come back and give it a refresh. We select our customer up here, so just give it some time to load the customer, and then we come here and say this is USD. That is supposed to fetch the price. Let's go back here and you can see that has picked 129. Now, I know most of you are wondering now, why would I really need to do this every day? Sometimes it is good because currencies do a lot of fluctuations, but also remember that this is quite some work and people may forget. But the beauty is that even if you forget, the ERP does not do it will not fail completely. You just need to go ahead and put it in. So you can choose the ERP, or rather ERPNext allows you to do this in such a way that it automatically fetches. So it can fetch automatically from your preferred currency exchange service like FX Now or any other that you select, or you can do from your central bank APIs. So for example, here in Kenya, we can get that from the Central Bank of Kenya. So that is where the beauty of ERPNext. So you can just do an integration with an API where you want to be fetching your currencies, and then this whole process is going to be automated. Now, I know somebody else is now wondering, okay, I see, but why do I have to do this every time I'm fetching? So let me first of all explain something to you here. Let me add one item 1, and we are selling it for $15.5. So if you change this to 20, you can see that the system automatically does the conversions. Like I told you, we report in Kenya in the local currency. So this one has already given me a conversion here, right? You can see that. And there is also VAT there. We are going to be looking at VAT when we go to tax. Now, one problem we have, every time we are invoicing this customer, we have to come here and do USD. We don't want that. This is not a very suitable situation here. So how to correct that? You can go to customer record. There is a number of ways you can do this. In this USD customer, you can see I don't know whether it's my system or my internet that is slowing me down, but no worries, we're going to finish. We have our USD customer here. You can see in the defaults here we have billing currency, so we can go here and put USD here as our billing currency. And when we save, we come back to our sales invoice, and let me select my USD customer. By default, it will fetch the currency. You can see that it did fetch the currency. Let me just refresh so that somebody doesn't think that it is the one that was there. So if I select again the USD customer, it automatically fetches the currency and also the currency exchange rate from our exchange list document. Now that's one way, but one thing that you need to notice is that the moment you bill like this, that is when you put this in a default, then you cannot invoice this customer in a different currency. So that is going to be crazy. So you can remove it from here, and then you can do in the accounting here. You see where we have the accounts. Let me actually delete this first so that we have some changes. You can see, let me go back to details. In the customer group, you can do multiple, for example, you can do one customer group here that has that currency in the customer group. So that way, when you leave this as blank, you can invoice this customer in any currency that you would like to invoice them in. Let me for now put it here, and then I show you the next aspect of billing in different currencies. When I go back to my invoice, and then now I need to complete this invoice. So USD customer, and then we come down here, we select our item, and we don't need to change anything here else. I just want to show you what happens here. So this one has saved. Let me see why it is saved. I wanted it to fail. I think I need to give this thing a hard refresh, because I ideally want this thing to fail. There's a reason why I want it to fail first. So let's see here. Yeah, this one has picked data's account, but I didn't want it to pick it first. I wanted it to fail so that I can explain that to you. If it picks again, then we have to proceed. Then I will just explain to you what exactly there I wanted to introduce here. Let me see. Give it a test. Save it. It saves. Now, in the connections here, you can see we have accounting details here, and we have automatically picked the account that is in US. So if we pick the account that is not in the US, that is USD, that is not like the account that is in US as a country. If our account is the one that is in a different currency from what you are invoicing the customer in, so you see we are invoicing the customer in USD, but the account we selected here is the data's account that is in Kenya shillings. This is not going to allow us to save. I think this one just let's do another invoice that allows me to save, but I know that's not supposed to happen. If I pick this one and then I go to more information and I change this to data's, that is this one, and then I add some item here. This is in USD. Let me try to save it. It saves. Let me see whether it's going to submit. It doesn't submit. So I think I was in a hurry. So you see this one is complaining that you are doing a customer in US and it needs to be the same as the one that is in the account. That is ideally because here in the accounting details we have this data's that is in Kenya shillings. So if we only change that to our USD account, then this is going to allow us to submit. Now, where you are going to do those changes, you can do that in the customer. Again, down here we have accounts, so that it automatically picks. You can pick the default account here and pick your USD account. That's how easy it is to manage that. So the first thing, ladies and gentlemen, is make sure you have a customer who you have specified that you are going to be invoicing in multi-currency, and then make sure you have an account for that currency, and that way you can invoice. And then of course the other thing is to make sure that you are handling currency exchange rates. Going back to our slides, and we have slide number 8 here. So 8 is about tax management, and yes, we looked about that briefly. So going back to this accounting module, if I scroll down here, you have a whole section here for tax masters. We have a number of things, but for today we just want to look at just a few of them. So how to manage tax. If I go, for example, to item, you noticed, even before I go to item, if I go to sales invoice, you noticed that every time I do a sales invoice, I select a customer. You have to select a customer here, by the way, and then I want you to pay attention to this part. Let me reduce this for now so that we're able to see, to pay attention to this part here. So if I select an item like this one, something will pop up. You see this one on net VAT, which is 16%. Yeah, where did this come from? This came from item. Let me show you. When I go to item, this item that we are using, then in the tax tab, you see here I have attached Kenya tax. So where that Kenya tax is coming from, it's coming from here. So if I go to accounting and I go to tax masters, and here you can see this Kenya tax is here. So inside there I have this on net VAT, which is 16%. So that's why I'm getting that. Now notice that you can add as many here as you wish. So ERPNext again gives you that flexibility to add as many charges for tax as you wish. Now here, when I attach that one to the item, every time I'm adding that item to an invoice, whether it is purchase or sales, it comes with that 16% VAT. Let me remove it for now so that I show you a demo without it. Then I go back to my sales invoice, and then here I create a new sales invoice, and I select my customer. Coming down here, we have this and this, so I'm going to select this item here. Pay attention to this part down here. Nothing is going to come up. So if I do that, you notice that nothing showed up here because we don't have that tax in the item. And you see here the grand total is 2,000 Kenya shillings. So let me go back to item quickly and return it. So go to tax and then add Kenya tax, save it, go back to sales invoice, and now I can automatically start managing my tax. So if I add a sales invoice, select my customer, come down here, notice what happens here when I select an item. So notice what happens here is that it will fetch that VAT, which is 320, and now the amount turns, the grand total is 2,320, right? And then here, by default, ERPNext is built to assume that this amount, the 16%, is excluded in the sale price that is up here. But what if it is included? What you can do here is you can check, opening that pencil, then check this checkbox that says, is this tax included in basic rate? And that way you can see it has done reverse computation, and the total tax now, instead of 320, is 275.86, but the grand total remains 2,000 because the VAT is inside that amount, right? So excellent. That's how you do it. Remember that these things, you don't have to do them manually. You can customize them and make sure that they are being done automatically, and that is what we do at Upeosoft. Upeosoft.com. This is our site, and that is what we do. We specialize in ERPNext, right? So you can land there, go to our contact us page, give us an email there. We'll get back to you in minutes. Let's go back here and see the 9th slide is about budgeting and cost centers. Now let's jump here quickly and go to budget. Again, using our, not like that, budget is written like that. So budget list, you can create your budget here. Now we may not go all the way to creating the budgets, but let me explain to you how this thing works. You can select a cost center. What is a cost center? In ERPNext, you can treat a cost center as a branch. So you have a branch in Mombasa, a branch in Kilifi, Kilifi, yeah, maybe Kilifi, a branch in Nairobi, a branch in Nakuru, and anywhere else you have a branch, maybe New York, maybe Canada, it doesn't matter. So you can treat those things as cost centers. Here I only have one cost center, which is main. And then the fiscal year, you need to select, of course, which fiscal year you are budgeting for. It could be 2024, it could be next year, which is 2025, and many more things. And then here you have monthly distribution. So you can decide to do a monthly distribution. That is where ERPNext is going to assume that the budget that you are going to put here, because see here we have expense accounts, so you can add your expense accounts here and give them cost of goods. That doesn't make sense. Maybe depreciation doesn't make sense also. Maybe commission on sales, which is the same that we have here. Let me see what else we can add. Administrative. Okay, you can add your budgets here. 1,000, then we have 20,000, and so on and so forth. Once you have these ones here and you do monthly distribution, by default what the ERPNext assumes is that every month is going to take an equal portion. So if you have 120,000 here, every month, let me make this 100 just so that we have 120. Every month is going to take 10,000 of expenses. But most of the times that's not the case. So what you do again, ERPNext allows you the flexibility to change it such that you manually allocate. But when you do this, it is going to allocate that, but it is not cast in stone. You can go ahead and adjust it manually to decide maybe January takes more, February takes less, March takes something middle, and so on and so forth. So that's how you do budgeting. And how this works is that once you start spending, ERPNext is going to start tracking for you how much budget you have and how much expenses you have. So it's going to be telling you, my friend, it looks like you are about to exceed your budget, so please you need to cut down on this, or probably how you want that to be done. Remember, you can always customize this so that it suits your need as you want them. Slide number 10, we have our summary. So here what we are doing is sales invoices. We just want to see what we could have missed. We have sales invoices, we looked at that exhaustively. Purchase invoices, we did. Payments received, we didn't do payments, so let's go to one of the sales invoices here. Sales invoice, and how do we receive our payment here? Let's say for example this one. Yeah, so in this one we are going to go ahead and click on this. So here we have an outstanding balance of 7,600, right? Yes. So how do we receive? Let's say we are receiving 5,000 from this invoice. You can see the status is now unpaid. You just click on this create, then payment. This opens a document with all the details that you need. So let's say for example here we are not receiving the whole amount, we are receiving 5,000. So you put 5,000 in the paid amount input, and then here you need to select the mode of payment. Where was the money paid? Was it paid to the bank? Was it paid to M-Pesa? Was it paid by cash? Was it a check? Anything you have, you can even add your own mode of payments here, and then make sure that those mode of payments are connected to the bank where it is applicable, or rather to the chart of accounts which handles that. If the chart of account is connected to a bank account, then that will be sorted easily. In our case, let's say cash. The reason why I want to say cash is because when I select any other method here, down here the reference number and the reference date becomes mandatory, and then you also saw a pop-up that this looks like it was complaining there. That is because the check has not been connected to any account in the chart of accounts. So let me just do cash, and then that is the invoice, and then I go ahead and save and submit. Now when we do that, the payment is received. That's how easy it is to receive the payment. This invoice was in status unpaid. Now when we give it a refresh, do we have refreshing? Reload. This is supposed to change to partly paid, and you can see that is exactly what happened, because we received 5,000 instead of 7,600, and now you see here the outstanding amount is 2,600. If you go back to this invoice, you notice that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 invoices that have not been paid for. But I would like us to give focus to these 2 invoices that are in USD. So we would like to receive them, but you notice that those are actually not from the same customer. So let me filter here by customer. Customer 1 has 2 unpaid invoices. All right, this and this. How can we pay both invoices with one payment? Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's see the total outstanding amount for this customer. So I can go there and go to the customer record, and then to dashboard, the total outstanding amount is this one. So let me copy it, and then I go to my invoice again. By the way, you can go to the invoice by going to the customer dashboard, and then here you can see we have sales invoices. What does this thing mean? You see here we have 3 and here we have 2. What this means is that we have 3 total invoices for this customer, and 2 of them are still unpaid. That is why you have these 2 here. So if I click on this one, it's going to take me to the invoices of that customer. Let me open one of them, and then I click on create payment. And in the payment, instead of receiving this, I want to receive that, which is ideally the total of these 2 invoices. In fact, let me receive 3,000 because I want to use that to show you where the allocated amount goes. Unallocated amount goes. And then remember, we want to pay 2 invoices with this payment. How do we do that? Now here you see we have get outstanding invoices button, and we also have get outstanding orders. We need to give this a click. When you give this a click, every invoice for this customer that is unpaid will be put here. Let's try that. You can do a date range select just in case there are so many invoices and maybe you want to pay the old ones first. You can do a filter here. I don't want to do that. And then you can see here my invoices have come with their balances. And you can see the system tells us that even after you pay this, there is going to be an allocated amount of 260 because I put here 3,000, which was 260 more than the value of these 2 invoices. So let me just give this a save. And then what did I say? Oh yeah, we need to select the mode of payment here. Let's just do cash. All right. Then we give this a save and we submit it. When we do that, the 2 invoices belonging to this customer are going to go back to the status. Not to go back, but they are rather going to be all paid. So that's how you receive payments in ERPNext. Now, payments made to suppliers, of course, is the same thing. So yeah, we don't have to do that. We just go to purchase invoice and then you create a payment for that. I want us to look at expense vouchers. So when you go back to the accounting module and you open this drop down, you see there is another link here that says expenses. Now this one is a module that we created at Tupelsoft, which is an expenses module. Now it is free and open source. It's on GitHub. You can just look for ERPNext expense module GitHub and you are most likely going to find it. So let's see. Yeah, Tupelsoft Limited. You see this one, Tupelsoft Limited. Give it a click, and then when you open it, this is the thing. It gives you the steps to install, and then you can go ahead and get this link. Then go to your site, do not rather your site, but your bench. Do bench get app, then paste the link, and you're going to have it. Now, the difference between this expense and the expense that is in the HR module is that the one that is in the HR module allows employees to do expense claims. This one is an expense management. So every expense that you have within your business, you can manage it here. Whether it belongs to an employee or not, you can do that here. Let me show you an example. If I want to record a new expense, just give that a click. Then I do add an expense here. I can edit this in full form. Then here you give an expense description, like maybe traveling to meet a customer or prospect, and then here you have the category, which ideally is you will have initially have created your categories. Let me go back here and show you where the categories are. I want to go back to expenses. Here, this is where we have expense categories, and in the expense categories you can see we have 2 things. The first thing is the expense category, which is a name, and then the expense account, which is an account in the chart of accounts, and this one only fetches expense accounts. So how this helps is that once you select this one here, the system knows exactly in which account in the chart of accounts it's going to book that expense. Then here we have an amount which could be maybe 20,000, and then here we have paid by. Paid by can either be employee, and you can see we have into bracket to reimburse, which means an employee spent their money and therefore they are raising an expense claim so that the company can reimburse them. And when we have this as employee to reimburse, we have this field which is employee as a mandatory field. So you have to select which employee is there, and then you have an expense date. You can say no, maybe the expense date was on Monday. Yeah, and then here we have some notes. Now, if it is not employee to reimburse, we can say this is company. You notice that once I select company, this employee will disappear. So let me do that, and we don't need to enter an employee there. So what this means is that we're just recording an expense for the company, so it's not going to be reimbursed to anyone. And then here we can say this is an example of a comment. Yeah, and then you can go ahead and save this one, and you are done. Now, the thing doesn't end there. Suppose you want to give a breakdown such that you want to show in this 20,000 what went to transport, what went to lunch, what went to drinks, what went to Uber, what went to I don't know what other expenses you have. We have this table here where you can do expense splitting. So here you can add all the items and the amounts, and the system automatically tracks for you. So for example, if I have here 1,000, the system starts doing the summation for me. So I have to select an item here. So let's say this one. So the system does the summation for me, and I cannot save this document until when the summation totals the amount that is here. So the system, we have done it in such a way that it allows you to not make mistakes. So you are not going to have any mistakes. Let's say 3,000. You can see this 3,000 have been put here. You can add another line, and this must total this. If it doesn't total, you cannot save it. We have done it like that so that the system ensures that you don't make mistakes when you are doing this breakdown, because it could sometimes be a lot of items. That's all I have to say about the expenses. But remember, this document, you can also expose it to a workflow, and we have already done that. Where it goes maybe to your department head, approves, goes to the probably your HR, approves. Whatever you want to do then goes to accounting and then approves. You can do that, or you can just remove the workflow and it is saved and submit. It becomes an expense, a claimable expense. Let's go back here, and then we have journal entries. We have looked at that exhaustively. We have credit and debit notes. We need to do that. So let me go back here, and I want to go to customer first. Yeah. So we have to go to customer, and you see this customer of ours here. We have a negative balance of 260. Remember this payment we did? Or actually, I think I need to do supply. Okay, well, let me just do invoice. So this customer has an overpayment of 260. But what if we return some of the goods? So let's go to the sales invoices and say this, in this invoice, these goods were damaged, so they are not good. We don't want them. So you can just go here to create and then do a return. That's how easy it is to do this in ERPNext. And you can specify how much you are returning here. In our case, we had just one item, so we just return it, and then we just click and save, and we submit. Yeah, of course, just go ahead and submit. So when we do that, this becomes a return, and when we go to sales invoices, there is a return there. And now when we go to the customer record, let me go back to here, customer, and we look at this customer of ours. Now the balance of that customer is no longer negative that to something. This is now negative 2,580, because the customer has returned some things that we had supplied to them. So it means that this money that was here now becomes an overpayment on our end. So we have to either give that customer other items on this price or whatever that is. So that's how you handle returns. So whether it's debit or credit note, of course, now you go to supplier and you do the same magic. Payment reconciliation is going to be our last thing. So let me go here. You see this customer has this balance. Let me leave it there. Go here and give them another invoice. Yeah. So when we come here, select our customer, is that one, and we give here we have the customer. We select this item, and this time let's sell 2. Yeah. So the total is coming to that. Let me just remove this tax, and I save it and submit. What is the total of this invoice? Let's see. This invoice has a total of 4,000, And you can see that the system says that the outstanding amount for this invoice is 4,000, which of course is true because that we have sold two things for 2,000 Kenya shillings. But remember, the customer, or we owed the customer 2,580. So the balance for this customer should be 4,000 minus this amount, right? So if we refresh this one, remember this one was before we created the customer, this balance is going to refresh and it's going to be correct. Let's just confirm that. So when we do give this a refresh, we go to dashboard, this is correct. The customer now owes us 1,420. But going back to the invoice remains the same. So even if you refresh it 1,000 times, this invoice still is unpaid. See that? It's unpaid. See up here? And the outstanding amount for this invoice still remains 4,000. So how, this is why we need to do payment reconciliation. So on our awesome search again, we do payment reconciliation. And then we say we want to do it against a customer. And you can see here we have other things like employees, shareholder, and also supplier. So it means if it's a supplier, you just select supplier. So we do customer in our case, and then we do our customer, which is this one. And then we can just go ahead and click on, you know, some of these things, click on this get and reconciled entries. When we do that, here you see there are two payments, one for 260 and another one for 2,320. This is the overpayment that we had done. You remember when we paid 3,000 instead of 2,000, I think 740. And this is the invoice that we returned. So there are some things that we have returned. That is why we have an payment here, another payment here. Then on this side we have an invoice, the invoice that we created. So what we need to do, we just click on allocate. If you want to specify, you can just select them. I don't want to do that. Then click on reconcile. When you do that, this now says that there is no payment that is pending, and here we have an invoice still for 1,420. So if we go back to our sales invoice now, sales invoice, instead of saying unpaid, that invoice is going to say it is partly paid, and you can see this is our invoice. It was unpaid. Let's give it a refresh from here, where it's refresh or reload, and now here it is partly paid. And you see now down here the balance is 1,420, which is the same balance we have here in the customer record. So now everything becomes smooth. That is what we meant by payment reconciliation. Financial reporting, I just need to take you back to, let me just close this tab. They are becoming too many. On the accounting module again, if you open, down here we have financial reports. So I am going to allow you to explore these reports. They are very obvious, but ERPNext is very, very comprehensive when it comes to reports. So you can see here, we have general ledgers, we have, for example, if you look at the general ledger, it's very comprehensive. There it is. It's loading the data here. Give it a little bit of time to load. Come on. Oh my goodness, I think I need to refresh it because I don't want us to stay there forever waiting for that. And there you go. This is the general ledger. Yeah, this is just one of the accounting reports. Let's go back. We have cash flows, we have trial balance. This is how the trial balance looks like, and you can see it has children there, so you can drill down into all these. And in these reports you can go down to the original entry. So it's not just a figure that is sitting there looking like 1 million that you don't know where it came from. If you have 1 million, you can drill down all the way to where the thing came from. You have profit and loss here statement that looks like this, and so many other financial reports. Let me just allow you to go and explore these reports. Yeah, if you have any questions, of course, now this is where you could have sent us the questions. But because I'm doing a recording of this thing, if you have Q&A, please, this is our contact, consult@tupeosoft.com. You can drop us an email there. Our mobile number, and it's also on WhatsApp, is this one. And you can also go to our website if you just like to see how our website looks, and also maybe you can send an email from the contact us form, and we are going to receive it. Then of course the last thing here is just to say thank you for watching this video, and thank you for the people who joined the webinar yesterday. Thank you for being part of us. That gives us motivation to keep going. So I would request that you visit our socials. These are the links here: LinkedIn, Facebook, and also on X, which was formerly Twitter. and then follow us so that you are notified when we have other webinars. And also that is enough motivation when you follow us and we see our the people, or rather our numbers growing. We are motivated to keep doing this and bringing value to you and also to the world. Thank you so much, and I will close this video here. Let us meet and talk again in the next webinar or the next video. Bye bye and all the best.